This morning I used the Pumpables Genie Advance, which is my favorite pump. I think everybody who follows my channel here or Instagram knows that this is really the primary pump that I use. Although I have many, I just prefer this one over most. One question that I get often is, how am I feeding baby with bottle and at the breast? I'm actually not feeding her bottles anymore. I give all of my extra milk to my son, or in a toddler cup, or I freeze it. So I have a little bit of a freezer stash. I'm actually swapping out all of my freezer stash milk right now and making it dairy free, because currently we are dairy free for my daughter. She had some issues with the dairy in my diet. So right now I'm not eating dairy. All of my previously frozen milk had dairy in my diet. So I'm just kind of weeding out the old stuff and making a new stash basically, but the old stuff I'm giving to my son. This morning I nursed her on the right side, on this side, and don't compare my milk outputs to yours, please. I definitely have an oversupply. I've lessened it by a lot, but I still have an oversupply just from pumping so much when she was born and we were separated and she was in the NICU, and she wasn't latching for the first month, and we were supplementing with formula too. So please don't compare your output to anybody else. My little PSA. So I'm gonna combine these two into one and put it in one bag, and I'm gonna use this freeze it flat. I'm freezing milk. Right now I'm putting DF next to it for dairy free, so that I know which ones, if I were to have to give her thawed milk, which ones I can give her. What I like about this freeze it flat, it kind of looks like a little book essentially. It makes all of your milk bags flat, which makes it much easier to store in your freezer. 2 collection cups combined is about 5.5 ounces. So I will write on my bag the date, I'm putting dairy free, and then 5.5 ounces. Here I am just trying to show you guys how I use a little countertop trick. So first pour your milk into the bag, then you kind of squeeze out as much as you can and half zip the bag, and then put it on your countertop, and then you'll kind of just roll the air out to the very top and then completely zip it shut. Removing all of the air will help ensure that your bag gets flat and also ensure the freshness of the milk. When you have the frozen bags that are used with the freeze it flat, essentially all of your milk bags will stack really nicely inside of your freezer. So this is using freeze it flat, and just to show you a comparison, this is not using the freeze it flat. So it's a little bit bulkier. This one is also not using the freeze it flat. It doesn't store as nicely. It takes up a lot more room than you really need to. Just to review some of the best practices when you're freezing your milk, you always want to remove the air as much as possible. So using the countertop trick is what I like to use, just to get all of the air out, and then it'll help get your bag flat as well. You never want to overfill your milk bag. So if the capacity in the bag says 6 ounces, only put 6 ounces or less in your bag, because it can tear and break and then you will lose your milk. So definitely do not overfill your bags. It's also important to remember first in, first out. Whenever you're freezing your milk, whatever is the oldest milk you want to take out first and thaw and serve to your baby. For your freezer stash also, best practice is to use the milk within 6 months of freezing, and it's acceptable according to the CDC to serve the breast milk before 12 months. So it will expire after the 12-month mark. Even if you have milk that is past the 12-month mark, you can use it for tons of things. And I will also link a little article below about that, but you can use it. My favorite thing is to use it for baths. You can use it on your baby's skin if they're having eczema or a rash. I actually use my frozen milk on my face. My acne that was really bad postpartum with my firstborn. There's lots of things you can do with milk that is expired. Another thing I want to remind you guys of is that if you were for some reason to lose power, let's say there's a hurricane or some sort of storm, natural disaster, and you have your freezer stash of milk, the best suggestion I can give you is do not open the freezer. Leave it closed, because the more you open it, the more you're exposing it to, your outside temperatures. Just keep it closed. And if your milk still has slushy icicles inside of it, you can refreeze it. Once it's completely thawed and it's completely liquid again, you can no longer refreeze it. So that's a bummer. But if it still has crystals in it, It's totally okay to refreeze your breast milk. Please let me know in the comments below if this was helpful. Subscribe to my channel. It really helps bring other moms awareness about breastfeeding, pumping, all of the things. And I will put the link for the Freeze It Flat below because I think it's really a lifesaver for your little stash. And again, freezer stash is not required. It's only if you want to, and it's what your goals are.